Welcome back to the channel, guys. This week we're going to have a look at one of the most amazing spiders we've got in the collection, the Harpactira pulchripes, the golden blue-legged baboon. Let's start with a little bit of history. Going back to the Mildenhall show at the beginning of November 2023, we were gifted by Mark and Victoria a sling, a Harpactira sling, which it was intended for my giveaway that I was doing pre-Christmas. A wonderful gift, so thank you very much, guys. Unfortunately, things didn't quite go to plan with this spider. So it had a bad molt. During the morning of the show, it was on the table and it wasn't moving too much. We thought, okay, it's been a little bit cold in transit maybe. But then it started to move, and then it decided to flip and start to molt. Not ideal being at the show, but you know, spiders do what they do. Unfortunately, this spider throughout the next couple of hours was showing signs that it wasn't going to be able to free itself. And we showed it to a few of the traders there, and people were scratching their heads as the best course of action. There was a chance that we could remove it, a chance that if we did so, it was going to probably die of stress. If we left it, then it was certainly not going to survive, as with all stuck molts, unfortunately. So yes, we decided to free the spider, and Chris took over and removed 5 legs to actually free the spider. He was absolutely gutted about having to do this, but the main objective was to free the spider to give it a chance. 5 legs seemed like quite a lot, and I must admit, none of us were very hopeful. But spiders are amazing creatures, and this little one came home and seemed to be doing okay. It was up to me to try and just make sure it had water and some food, make sure that it knew where these things were, and to make sure that we could get it through to another molt. It was going to be one of those helicopter parenting situations. It was going to be touch and go until the molt actually happened, if we ever reached that point. Spiders, if you're not sure, can regenerate their limbs. When they lose a limb, if you've ever watched any of Andrew Smith's documentaries, you'll see that he talks about a lot of the spiders he sees in the wild having missing limbs, and it seems to be a point of case that spiders do drop their limbs and do quite well with 7 legs, 6 legs a lot of the time. In this case, having 5 removed seemed quite extreme. However, we then noticed, or I noticed, that this spider was getting stuck on the webbing that it was putting down, because we'd put it in a very flat setup, a terrestrial setup, compact soil, nothing really too fancy, just so it could move around and do its thing. But one of its limbs were getting caught. The little tiny hooks on the end of its feet seemed to not be functioning properly, and the leg didn't look to be responding very well. And I noticed when I put it under macro lens that this leg wasn't actually attached to the carapace properly anyway, so it was a dead leg. So we removed that leg, which unfortunately meant that it then had 0 legs on the right side of its body, 2 on its left, and its 2 pedipalps. So we then gave it a name. We don't name all the spiders, but we gave this one a name, Legoloss. A play on words with the elven Lord of the Rings character Legolas. Anyway, moving forwards, so this spider started to web up quite a lot in there, and it was quite amusing watching it, because obviously it was running around in circles a lot. It was trying to go up the side of its enclosure and then rolling down because it had no legs to support itself on the right hand side. But using a syringe with droplets of water that we were placing around the enclosure and around the spider, and making some mealworm sushi, this spider was eating and started to eat and started to drink, and you know, seemed to be doing okay. It was every morning first spider I watched when I came in the room. I hate having that situation where you walk in and the first thing you do is dart towards one spider. It's one of the reasons why I won't keep some of the most fragile spiders out there, because I just don't want to have that feeling of stress on me, walking in and just panicking every time you walk in to look at a spider. But this situation was different. It was a spider that needed care. So, more than usual anyway. They regenerate these legs via regeneration during a molt. They gradually build these things up inside their body, and when it comes to time to molt, they sometimes will regenerate a limb. These limbs look smaller than the other limbs, They look like training wheels. They aren't quite fully functional size-wise, and it can take 2 or 3 molts for these things to grow to full size. So normally when you see 1 or 2 limbs gone, you know, you'd maybe expect those to regenerate, but having 6 removed now for this spider seemed like quite a tall order, and my fear at the back of my head was whether or not molting would put too much stress on this spider to actually be able to molt. We've had spiders pass away in molts for seemingly no reason, so to have 6 legs to regenerate seemed to be a situation that was going to put an awful lot of stress onto this tiny little sling. There's been a study done by Oxford and Aarhus in Denmark universities, because there's a lot of studies done with animals that leads to engineering, looking at the way that limbs move and stuff like that, and seeing if there's a crossover for robotics. When you see these new training legs come through, it doesn't matter if it's smaller, because it works completely independently of the other legs that it has. So it doesn't rely on a full structure or full size to be functional and allow that spider to do what it needs to do. They're all independent, and so if you've got 3 or 4 small ones and the rest are big, it shouldn't impact that spider whatsoever. It should be able to go on its day-to-day business. So after feeding this spider for a few months, through the course of the whole of November and December, I was delighted when I walked into the room the other day and this spider had molted, and even more so surprised that when I started looking at this spider's molted, the fact that it had grown all 6 missing limbs. So it has 8 legs back. The 2 existing ones are easy to spot because they're an awful lot bigger than all the rest, but this spider is now moving around with 8 fully functional limbs, which is unbelievable. Just to see the way that these spiders actually do these things is just, you know, mind-blowing to me. But it also goes to show that sometimes when you have animals that need that extra special TLC, there's no reason to give up on these animals. You know, they can survive with 6 legs missing and still prove that they can actually get back to full strength. Now, not out of the woods yet with this one, not by long means, because the stress of that molt could still prove that it's too much for its tiny body, but we will see. It has eaten since it molted, and it is now back to being Speedy Gonzales inside its setup. So I'll let this one harden up for a few weeks, and then there's possibly going to be a rehouse to give it a more suitable setup. This one is okay size-wise, it's just I'd prefer to give it some more anchor points, because these are quite heavy webbing spiders, and I'd rather give it something that it can sort of climb around all over. The reason we didn't, obviously, was because we wanted to keep a very, very close eye on it for while it only had its 2 limbs. But yes, it's a good news story this week. Quite unusual for us. We've got some good news for a change, so it's amazing. What other news have we got going on? Well, we have got Avic pairings ongoing at the moment, and we have Purians pairings ongoing at the moment. I think we've had success with the Purians. There seems to have been insertion on some of the footage that I reviewed, and so hopefully, you know, we're going to get another pairing this week, and yeah, looking forward to hopefully, fingers crossed, getting a success out of that one. We have 2 females and the 1 male, and even though the female went for the male, we managed to get him out of there. So he lives to see another day, and hopefully lives to see another pairing experience, so that we can have a better odds with that one, because the Purians are an amazing spider, and you don't see them too often these days, so it'd be quite good to actually get that one going. We have had to do a few rehouses, but I thought I'd break this week up and do something a little bit different, just have a little bit of a footage and a chat over the top of this spider. So if you did enjoy today's video, let us know, leave a comment. If you've had spiders that have lost limbs and then grown them back, if you've got any stories like that, please let me know in the comments. I love reading all that sort of stuff. If you've got videos to show what went on with these spiders, then even better. Like, send me the links. I'd love to watch all that stuff. Spiders are fascinating things, and just being able to help this one through its molt has just reinforced that no end. Anyway, like I say, if you did enjoy, give it a like. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so, and we'll catch up with you next week. I think we have a special video for you next week. So I'll catch up with you later, guys. Cheers.